the godfather. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but now drinks of the wine. A few drops are given to the infant. The goblet with the remainder is sent to the mother, so that she may partake of its contents. The circumcision always concludes with a feast, followed by a grace appropriate to the occasion and recited by the operator. And Aruk Yere Dea 260 could be a place to see this. A Solchen Aruk, okay. While speaking of the circumcision of Jewish children, the adoption of non-Jews as proselytes may be taken into consideration. The Shulchan Aruch holds that non-Jewish males seeking religious fellowship with Israel and the privileges resulting therefrom must be subjected to circumcision if the non-Jew has already been circumcised for hygienic reasons. Well, he has a disease and they need to remove some flesh or something, are the only ones that I've heard of from actual medical sources. The drop of blood, known as the blood of the covenant, referred to several times before, must be drawn from his genital organ by means of incision. If, for some reason other, like weakness or disease, the proselyte cannot be circumcised without dangerous consequences, he may be accepted simply by conforming to the two other conditions of admission, bathing and immersion. Oh. Well, it's good. The sucking or the dabbing is not required. Attention should be called to the fact that at a meeting of American Reform rabbis held in New York in 1892, the circumcision of proselytes was abolished as a condition of their admission into the Jewish faith. Central Conference of American Rabbis, which this author became the head of at some point, I think. In this connection, it may be not out of place to say a word on the attitude of Jews towards proselytes. It should be stated at the outset that Judaism is not a proselytizing faith. Non-Jews are accepted only if they apply for Jewish fellowship of their own free will and accord. Every conversion presupposes not only instruction in the principles and ceremonial institutions of Judaism, but also the dissuasion of the prospective convert from his step. He must be made acquainted with the sad lot of persecution which Israel endured, and only after the promise of willingness to share that lot with his newly adopted brethren can the convert hope to be accepted. So he has to be sad about things that didn't happen to him. In addition, the pledge is enacted that all male children born to the convert after entrance into the marriage state with a born Jew or Jewess will be permitted to conform to the demands of the Abrahamic covenant. Shulchan Aruch Yore De'ah 268 to 270 is where you're going to find that. And that all female children will be reared in the Jewish faith, since girls have no physical operation performed, in most interpretations. Remember, there's a wide variety of, not as wide as some other, like Christianity or something, but there's a series of types of Judaism. The question naturally arises, when do they receive their names? It is customary for the father and mother of the female child to go to the synagogue about 6 weeks after the girl's birth. The visit is usually made on the Sabbath. The father is called to the bema to be one of the 8 persons to recite the usual benedictions over a subsection of the weekly portion read from the scrolls in the course of special blessing which the father asks the precentor to make. He delegates the precentor to dedicate one to his newborn daughter and to give to her the name by which she is known ever after, and to dedicate another blessing to his wife. The attitude of the synagogue towards female converts to Judaism is one of dissuasion, like its attitude towards males. Another ceremony to which male infants are subjected is known as the redemption. Padiyun Haben. If the male child happens to be the firstborn among the children of the family, the firstborn is always the firstborn of the mother. If a man marries a widow with children, and a boy is the first fruit of the marriage, no redemption is necessary. If the father is absent or sick at the time of the son's redemption, the redemption must be observed by the mother. This institution takes place on the 31st day after the child's birth. If the day for the redemption happens to be a Sabbath or holiday, the ceremony is deferred until the next following day. Because of being a transaction by means of a coin, it is regarded as a desecration of the Sabbath. The institution has its origin in the fact that in the 10th plague which befell Egypt, and in which the firstborn of every Egyptian home was killed, the firstborn of Israel was spared. The law is therefore taken down from Exodus 13:13. Every firstling of a donkey thou shalt redeem with a lamb, and if thou wilt not redeem it, then thou shalt break his neck, and all the firstborn of man among thy children shalt thou redeem. And people act like one difference between Judaism and Islam is that Islam, the breaking of the neck of animals, except maybe in a fight and you're trying to defend yourself, is not allowed. And unless you're starving to death, you don't eat the meat. In Numbers, both the age and the cost of redemption are stipulated in the words from chapter 18:16. And those that are to be redeemed from a month old shalt thou redeem according to thine estimation for the money of 5 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerah. For the redemption of the child, the parents must go to one who is descended from the priestly family of Aaron. The reasons that one of the descendants of Aaron officiates at the ceremony is because in the early days of Israel, the house of Aaron was selected in place of the firstborn of Israel to minister in the sanctuary. If the father of the child happens to be of the family of Aaron, or one of the less aristocratic Levitical clans, or if the mother is the daughter of an Aaronite or Levite, the child need not be redeemed. The amount of redemption money to be given to the priestly descendant is always equivalent to 5 shekels, the equivalent of $2.50 in our currency, which, what if this was 100 years ago? Maybe that'd be like $100 or something. The money may be given in the form of a substitute, if more agreeable or convenient. Should the father or mother neglect the ceremony of redemption, the child, when old, must of his own accord subject himself to it. And that's another difference that Islam has between that and Judaism, is that you're innocent from birth. What is the case with your parents or whatever? There's nothing to redeem you of until you make mistakes for yourself. The service proceeds as follows. The father presents his child to the priest or Aaronite and says, "This is my firstborn, this is the firstborn of his mother, and the Holy One, blessed be he, has commanded to redeem him, as it is said, and those who are to be redeemed of them from a month old shalt thou redeem according to thine estimation for the money of 5 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary, the shekel being 20 gerahs. And it is furthermore said, Sanctify unto me all the firstborn whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine." The father, then handing to the Aaronite the equivalent of 5 shekels, it is asked by him, "What do you prefer to give me?" Okay, well, "What do you prefer to give me thy firstborn son, the firstborn of his mother, or to redeem him her 5 selas, which thou art by law obliged to give?" Oh, well, you redeem your children by saying 5 prayers. A salah is outside the Bible, in the Semitic languages, and even in the Persian languages, some ritual recitation where you assume positions like folding your arms right over left and bowing and prostrating and stuff like that. The father answered, "I prefer to redeem my son. Here is the value of his redemption, which I am by law obliged to give." After the redemption money has been accepted and the child has been returned to the father says, "Praise be thou, God as a noun and verb, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us by his commandments and enjoined upon us the redemption of the Son. Praise be thou, God as a noun and verb, our God, King of the universe, who has kept us alive and preserved us and permitted us to reach this season." Holding the redemption money over the head of the child, the Aaronite declares, This is instead of that. This is an exchange of that. This is in remission of that. May it be the will of God that as this child has entered the period of redemption, the child may be spared to enter the study of the law and the marriage state and the practice of good deeds. Amen. And the Aaronites then places his hand upon the head of the child, both arms kind of, a form a triangle in the middle, but may God make thee like Ephraim and Manasseh. May God as a noun and verb bless thee and preserve thee. May God as a noun and verb let his countenance shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. May God as a noun and verb lift up his countenance toward thee and give thee peace. God as a noun and verb is thy keeper. God as a noun and verb is thy shade among the right hand. For length of days and years of life and peace they shall add to thee. God as a noun and verb shall guard thee against all evil. He will guard thy life. Amen. After the redemption, there is a feast similar to the one following the circumcision. Like other ancient institutions, the redemption of the firstborn has fallen into growing disuse. Here ends the ceremonials of infancy.